love what you're doing. And it's not a surprise that many of the kids that you're working with are special needs or have some atypicality, because that's the new normal in our country. That's what I say about our son Christopher. This is the new normal. And I can sense instinctively that what you're doing is tremendous for them and their self-esteem and their development, because jiu-jitsu is awesome. To your question, first, I couldn't agree more that college is not for everyone. We are overprescribing college, and we've made it 2.5 times more expensive since I went. Has it gotten 2.5 times better in that time? No, it's 2.5 times more expensive. But kids still feel like they don't have the choice but to go. So we need to invest in non-college paths. The first and biggest one is to invest in technical apprenticeships and trade schools. Only 6% of American high school students go to technical programs right now at their high school. In Germany, that's 59%. So think of that gulf. That's one major non-college path. I love your entrepreneurial zeal. It seems like you started this school yourself. Is that right?
It's not. I'm the general manager.
You're the general manager?
That's my brother.
So if you want to expand it, one of the things that's going to make it so much easier for you to draw in people who want to do that kind of work and help other kids and then and grow it is the fact that you'll have this $1,000 a month yourself, which will give you a degree of security. But then the people you're talking with will also have $1,000 a month, so that if they want to do the kind of work you're proposing, then they can have a foundation to give it a try for a particular period without feeling like you have to break the bank to pay them on day one. And then when you go to parents and say, hey, your kid would really benefit from this, if there are 2 parents in that household and there's another $24,000 you're coming to that household, do you think they'll be more likely to pay the jiu-jitsu instructor if they've got an extra couple $1,000s a month coming in? And it's not just the jiu-jitsu instructor, it's the tutor, it's the special needs, the speech pathologist, it's the coach, it's everything that makes our community stronger and healthier. Right now, our economy is pulling us towards things that are serving the machine, and we have to make the machine serve us. If we had the machine serving us, then I have a feeling that many more people would be starting and joining jiu-jitsu schools, because I think it's one of those things that makes a lot of people stronger, healthier every day. Thank you. Thanks for the question. What's the #1 criteria for Democrats about the nominee? Beat Donald Trump. Surveys have consistently shown that I'm drawing a higher level of disaffected Trump voters than anyone else in the field. One survey said that 10% of Trump voters would support me in the general over Trump. Another survey said that 18% of college Republicans would choose me over Trump in the general. And you know who's figured this out? Donald Trump. There is only one candidate in the field that he has not touched online, and you're looking at it. And he hasn't touched me because, one, he knows it's a losing battle because a lot of his supporters actually like me. And number 2, I'm better at the internet than he is. What I do want to go down this line is that I'm peeling off disaffected Trump voters and independents and libertarians, and a survey showed that I now have I'm among the least disappointing nominees that feel like when I saw the survey. It was literally like almost 90% of Democrats would be like, I would be okay with Yang as a nominee. So if you put those 2 pieces together, you wind up with the strongest candidate to beat Donald Trump. Particularly because what are his strongest attack lines against his opponents? You're a creature of Washington, you're corrupt, you're like a lifetime politician, you know, crooked Hillary, like the rest of it. None of that stuff works on me. Well, the joke about like the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math, like I'm kind of like this mirror image of him, and I can make him look utterly ridiculous on the debate stage. I can't wait to get Thank you for your work and your advocacy. I feel very, very passionately about this as the father of an autistic child and as a person. We need to do much more to help people with disabilities access opportunities and jobs. But I'm going to make a bigger argument. We cannot put ourselves in a bucket where we're saying, hey, everyone can contribute at the marketplace. Because one, there are some people that legitimately cannot. Like there are, nonverbal autistic children who are going to grow up to become nonverbal adults. And two, it should not matter. Like we all have value no matter what. This is one thing that drives me crazy about the arguments about women in business. Is like, what you always hear is that like, oh, companies with women in leadership roles make more money. And so let's like unpack that and be like, so the purpose of treating women well is to make more money. And if for some reason you wouldn't make more money by treating women well, then you would not. So for people with disability, it's like, do we need to put much more in the way of resources to help people actually see the abilities of people who have different capacities and then have them enjoy that kind of independence at work? 100% yes. But does that actually, does that need to be the standard that people are at in order to live a good, fulfilling, happy life? No. It's like we should be investing in everyone's happiness and fulfillment, regardless of whether or not they can slot into a corporate role. So this is something I'm very, very concerned about. Is the United States going to keep pace with China in artificial intelligence? There's a joke that people told in AI. It goes like this. How far behind the US is China in artificial intelligence? And the answer was 12 hours. Because they would wake up and see what we did the previous day. That was a joke. But now the concern is that they're actually poised to leapfrog us because we invented this thing called machine learning, which now develops algorithms that get smarter based upon having access to more data. You know who has more data than anybody? China. And China has also invested more in computing resources and infrastructure than anyone else, where they have islands of server farms as far as the eye can see, like something right out of the Matrix. And I have sat with our leading technologists in the United States, and they said, look, we will invest $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion in computing infrastructure, but we can't invest 10 or $15 billion the way the Chinese are, and so we're concerned we're not going to keep pace. So I'm going to ask you this question. Proposal number one is that no need to worry because the American scientists will come up with a new breakthrough and we will then somehow leapfrog the Chinese again. Or number two, the person with more data and more computing infrastructure is going to win. Raise your hand if you think it's going to be number one. Number two. Yeah, me too. So what I said to the folks in Silicon Valley, I said, all right, let's say I'm the president, which thanks to you all I will be in not that long. Here's the deal I will make with you. We will put up billions of dollars of public resources to match the Chinese computing infrastructure and make it available to you to make sure we maintain our global lead in AI. And in return, you will have someone from the government in the room to make sure you do not do something disastrous. Does that seem like a reasonable trade? And then they were like, yes, it does. It's like, good. And they're actually concerned about doing something disastrous because they know if you do AI research and you go off the rails, it can be very, very devastating. Some of them know that. One of them actually said to me that the government should give us guardrails because right now our incentives are all to go as fast as possible, and eventually one of us is going to do something we regret. If the CEO of a tech company says that to you, you kind of should listen, am I right? Yeah. So this is what we need to do to maintain competitiveness in AI. The other major technology realm that we need to try and match the Chinese in is 5G. So they have subsidized their 5G equipment to the highest levels, and we do not have an analogous offering in that space. The other competitors against Huawei and their 5G are Samsung and then a couple of European firms. So this is going to be a massive race, and investment that we have to make, and right now we're lagging behind. Those are my two main priorities, and I believe I'm the ideal commander-in-chief to make sure we keep pace with the Chinese in the next number of years. I love this question so much. It speaks to the substance of our politics. You have my word that I will be delighted to tell you about the problems and how crummy it is. Because that's just the way my mind works. I think you can sense it from the data. I mean, some of this data is very dark, right? It's very depressing. Most politicians are told, do not say dark and depressing things. The problem is that our reality is becoming dark and depressing. How many of you saw the images from Australia by the wildfire? Was that not straight up out of some kind of nightmarish science fiction movie? Killed 1 billion animals? Can you imagine the carbon levels that went into the atmosphere? Here's my proof that I will tell it how it is. A few debates ago, I was the person who staked out the new position on climate change, which is that it's worse than you think and it's already here, and we just need to get on with the business of trying to protect ourselves against it. You know how many of you saw that with me? And then now the other candidates are saying the same thing. They're like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, there's no preventing climate change, it's here. So I promise you, as your president, I will tell it like it is, warts and all. That's actually just the way I have to operate. I believe that it would depend upon the nature of the information. I think there's some information that we should be committed to saying, like, this should be encrypted and off limits in most any case. And then there's other information. I actually naturally hew towards transparency for some things. And so it depends upon the nature of the info. It's a very big, complicated government and system. There are going to be some things that genuinely should be off limits from public eyes. If it's not clearly in that bucket, then I would like to try and move things towards a greater degree of public transparency. I think right now one of the reasons why we feel the way we feel about our government is that you feel like there are all of these things that are happening in these buildings and in these boxes that we're not privy to. I want to give one basic example of something that this is not to your question, so it's kind of far afield, but this is my thinking on it. I'm not someone who would ever say you should run government like a business because they're two different things. Anyone who says that's pretty dumb, honestly. Different organizations, different leadership skills, different processes. But if you were a business and you got hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue from hundreds of millions of people on a single day, you'd probably be pretty happy about that day. That's tax day. Why is tax day such a miserable bore for all of us? I would turn it into revenue day. I would make it a national holiday. I would bring families to celebrate at the White House another awesome year. And then you get a thank you message from Oprah and The Rock and saying thank you for fueling our society for another great year. And you get to elect where 1% of your tax money went, so that you have a sense of engagement with where the money went. And then you get a thank you message from that agency too, like the U.S. Forest Service. There'll be some rangers being like, thank you. Would that make you feel a little bit better about the government?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Just getting a thank you would actually be a step. And so to the extent that government can share a piece of information, then you'd actually start to feel a little bit better and healthier. There's one massive treasure trove of data that we need to make available to academics and data scientists and people who can actually comb through and find really awesome correlations. Someone told me that it's like right now being caged in a way that is not accessible to academics. But the government accrues a lot of information that if we allowed scientists to go through, you could actually find very, very interesting lessons. I would come into anything that's like that could actually be a public resource, we should make publicly available and try and renew the trust between government and the people.
Hi, my name's George Tarr. You mean the absolute world to me. I did my thesis in the ethics of artificial intelligence. And what I focused on was fully autonomous weapons. So those are weapons where there is no human in the loop. A machine decides who gets killed abroad. Now, the amazing thing about this is America has not signed the pledge to ban them, and a lot of countries have. Elon Musk supports it, tech entrepreneurs support it, but America hasn't signed it. And so what I'd like to know is, why do you think the incentives in international relations, military technology, are so bad that we can't even do something as obvious as banning the Terminator, killer robots? We can't even do that. Why do you think that is, and how can we stop it?
The US has this mistaken view that restraining oneself is somehow curbing options and a sign of weakness, whereas I think it's a sign of strength. For example, I'm one of the candidates who has openly said I would adopt a no first use of nuclear weapons policy because we should not be the first country to use nuclear weapons. Some people in the military think like, well, you always have to reserve the right. Just like I can see the conversation when you're like, hey, killer robots, what do you think? Some of the military would be like, I might want to use a killer robot that kills automatically without actually checking with anyone. To me, obviously, you should be like, hey, we should make sure that if we kill someone, there's a person making that decision instead of just having an auto kill. So we need to rein in the military-industrial complex of this country. Think about where we just were or really still are. 75% of Americans want nothing to do with war with Iran. So how the heck are we at the brink of war with Iran? It's because Congress has given its authority to declare war to the executive branch for 19 years and counting and said, do what you want. As your president, I would repeal the AUMF. I would say to Congress, it is your power and your power alone to declare war. And then I would make sure that we end the forever wars and start investing that $700 billion a year in things that will genuinely make us stronger and more secure, including fighting things like climate change. First, I want to talk about the substance abuse problem that led to your being at the shelter. The opiate epidemic has destroyed so many families, lives, communities, meth as well. It was right here in Iowa where a high school senior said to me that his classmates had fentanyl patches on their arms and are addicted, and what can we do? We have to do more. Now, one of the truths about this situation is that this did not happen by itself. This is a disease of capitalism run amok, where our drug companies, Purdue Pharma, dispensed millions of opiate prescriptions and said this is a non-addictive painkiller wonder drug. And it turns out it was terribly addictive. And that ended up morphing into heroin and fentanyl. There was one point when there were more opiate prescriptions in the state of Ohio than there were human beings in the state of Ohio. And our government looked at that and said that was appropriate. Eventually, our government got around to fining the drug company $635 million, Purdue Pharma. Sounds like a lot, right? Then you realize they made $30 billion, and that was a 2% fine. And they killed tens of thousands of Americans, and we're still wrestling with it to this day. So with that as a backdrop, we have to come clean and say, look, this was an epic government failure at the highest levels. We screwed up, and we helped facilitate, or at least turn a blind eye to the drug companies destroying all of these families and lives. So now we need to take all these resources and try and give people a fighting chance to recover and get stronger and more whole. This is not a money problem because no amount of money gives people their loved ones back, gets people off drugs, but money cannot be the obstacle. We need to take those tens of millions of dollars the drug companies made off of us, claw it all back, and then put it right back into our communities to help people get off the drugs. I ran a nonprofit for 7 years. And the toughest thing about running a nonprofit is that you raise some money, but then your needs are always much, much higher than your budget. And I've been to churches around the country. And one thing I've noticed is that the churches in affluent areas have more resources than the churches in not so affluent areas. And I thought to myself, it's like, well, it kind of should be the opposite, because if anyone needs like actual resources and services, it's like the place that's struggling. Whereas like the rich neighborhood, it's like, do they really need all this stuff? And so I 100% would make sure that that shelter has adequate resources, that the kids actually have food to eat that isn't donated, and that you can actually maybe even have a budget to live life like a kid, because kids should not be trapped in a shelter thinking that that they can't actually go out and enjoy themselves the way a 13-year-old ought to. I'll make that right, Taylor. Thank you for sharing. All right, everyone, let's make history in 20 days. Let's win this thing.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this political content, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.